Pitching to the media is easier than you think. Today we're gonna go through how to create a media list, how to send that pitch, and then how to write the pitch. Now the traditional style of creating a media list is very time consuming. So what you have to do is you go on top outlets where you wanna be covered. So let's just say you make a list of 100 outlets, and then you pick the journalist who is most likely to cover your story. And then you have to do your research and find their contact information, whether it be email, phone number. On some outlets that's public information and they'll list it for you. On other outlets you have to go digging and hunting and look on LinkedIn and use Sales Navigator and use Apollo and all of these tools. So today I'm going to show you how we use Meltwater to create media lists and then send to the public. So in here we're in Meltwater. Meltwater is basically a database to pitch publications and find their contact list and create your media list at the simple sense. That's the core of it. That's why we originally got it. It has a whole bunch of other features. But if we go into this tool, you'll see media relations is what we're talking about here. You're going to go to search. So this is what it looks like. If you've done any B2B contact databases, any kind of tools like that, it works very similar. So you can come in here and let me just clear out my settings real quick. So we're just gonna look at beats. So beats are just what does that journalist cover? And today we wanna talk about business. So let's do business. So this would be B2B consulting, anything like that. And so what we're trying to do is get very specific with who we want to reach out to. And there's hundreds of ways to create your media list. Now that you're in the database, it all works basically the same. But you'll see that we went from thousands and thousands of journalists down to 14,000. The next thing you want to do is region. So let's just say we want to cover the United States. There we go. So it took out a couple people that were different countries. A lot of those major outlets are in the United States. But let's just say you were a Florida-based company and wanted to only talk about, reach out to Florida outlets because it's Florida related. There you go. So now you're down to 467. So typically smaller media lists work better because you want to be hyper personalized and hyper focused on what their last article was, where they're located, things like that. You can build all that in so they feel like you're actually talking to them. So some personalization there. Profile type, let's go with verified. This just means that they have, they've used basically here, they've manually verified it or used other means to verify it. So let's do a direct email here. And I'm just gonna walk you through some of the choices that we have, and you can see the list is getting smaller and smaller. Phone numbers are a more aggressive way of pitching. We typically don't do that unless it's very important. We know that the journalist actually wants to cover it. So you can do direct if you were gonna actually do that. For this case, that only gives us a small amount. I'm gonna leave this one unchecked. Top tier, depending on the type of story, you don't always wanna pitch to top tier. Top tier is great, but if it's not top tier relevant, it's not gonna get picked up. So you gotta figure out what actually needs to be relevant. So if we want a local, because we're talking about local here, and you can see this list is getting smaller and smaller to the point where we're at one journalist. So that's one-to-one pitch, St. Pete, Florida, and then you can pitch that person in an individual way. But for this example, I don't want to do a one-to-one pitch. So let's leave out local, and we'll keep going here just so you guys can see what our choices are. There are different kind of contributors, staff writers. I'm not gonna make any more selections here. I'm just gonna show you the different types of channels. So let's just say we wanna focus on online, how are we doing on our list? So we got 13. So a very specific list, but that's probably good for us. And then there's other things here. We want English. All right, so we're down to 13. Now basically you can select all of these and add to a media list, or you can go in here and specifically look at an individual. So the media list is what we're gonna actually use to create and send an actual pitch. That's gonna be the next step of here. You can also jump in and learn more about this journalist. You can see their entire profile, learn about what they've written about, what you're gonna have success with, and you can use this. So you see their most recent article, you can use that in your pitch to add a lot more value and kind of build your campaign and really customize and personalize it. So we'll come in here. The next step is gonna be that actual outreach. So you just select here. Basically, this is what a pitch looks like. You're gonna click on outreach, you're gonna hit create a new pitch, and you're gonna be able to select your media list right here. So if we had saved that to a media list, it'd be right there. The next thing here is we're obviously with Meltwater, you have to verify your email, but then what pitch is actually gonna work? And that's the hard piece. Making a list is one thing, cleaning your list, making sure it's the right people to talk to, make sure you don't get the right too many bounces, things like that. There's a whole bunch of little nuances to that. Sometimes we'll download them, use a cleaning software, re-upload it, things like that. But the important thing is actually creating a pitch that people care about. So with AutoPR, we use the term OTR, outreach, trends, and relationships. The big thing to this is the outreach part of it, of course, but the next piece of it is the trend. So is what you're pitching a good trend? Is it newsworthy? Is someone going to cover it? Is it specific to what's going on in anyone's day-to-day life? Because if you think about media relations, when you get something covered, it's a currency. So you're adding value to that outlet, and their main currency is typically ad dollars, so eyeballs. So they're gonna advertise on a landing page, they're gonna advertise through their channel, so they need more people's attention. So if you're not able to grab their attention and bring in views, they're not gonna cover your story. So there's a specific way we create pitches. I have a really quick outline here. So the first thing is the subject. The subject is probably one of the most important things with anything, because you need to get your open rates. Typically our pitches get over a 50 to 60% open rate, which is really, I think, pretty good, and we'll get about a 6% response rate because we're as targeted as possible. Some pitches get much higher response rates, but the subject is kind of like advertising. It has to be eye-catching, short and concise. People have to read it and know what you're talking about, but also be a little clickbaity where they want to open it and learn more. So I have a couple examples here, but one of them is 4-day work week expert interview. That's the entire subject. It's not long and complicated, but it leaves me intrigued about it, especially if I'm in HR, if I'm in human resources, if I'm lobbying for this, whatever it is, or if I know my audience is interested in that 4-day work week, that's gonna be something that's gonna be very intriguing. This is one that did pretty well for us, and we got some coverage on that. There's other ones right here, but the subject is so important because it's what people see. Now, the next piece of it, typically we put kind of, you have above the fold, so what people can see, like that pretext in an email, that can be what value is going to be added, things like that. Basically extending that subject a little bit more, so you're kind of answering that hook slightly to get more intention. Typically for us, we start with a quick CTA. Are you interested in covering this person for X? The reason why we do that is because we want them to be able to digest our pitches really quickly, because people have about a 3-second attention span across all platforms. So our goal is to hook them, tell them what we need, and then give them more information if they're interested. So it's that really quick game of getting attention. So you have your short CTA, then you customize it. Here's where we make sure that they realize that, this isn't a mass pitch. We're talking directly to them, so we use what articles they recently wrote about, any information specific to them, anything we can find. If we have a relationship, talk about what they covered in the past for us, whatever it is, so that way they know, hey, this isn't just a random person, this is someone that's done research on me, they know what they're talking about, I've worked with them in the past, whatever that is. The next piece of that is a little bit more of beefing up that clickbait, and so talking about a quote from our client, to really getting something with meat that they would ideally want to use. So here's that quote talking about how a 4-day work week has improved efficiency by a Harvard study, whatever that is. And that quote will then lead into talking points. So typically we do a max of 3, we do it in bullet style, and these are the talking points that people are really interested in. And our goal is to make them hyper-targeted and super important, so people want to ask these questions. But basically, part of these talking points is us doing a little bit of that journalist job in a sense. So we're trying to make their job easier. So like, oh, these are great talking points, because a lot of journalists have to produce a lot of content consistently. And if you've ever tried to produce hundreds of pieces of content, it gets daunting and you run out of ideas. And so if someone can help you with a creative idea that catches your attention, that's what this is really supposed to be about. The next thing we do is basically that follow-up CTA. So we've given all them information, we've got them excited, and we're going to do the CTA, which CTA typically is just, reach out to interview our client or reach out for more information, whatever it is with that contact information. So that's an outline of the pitch. It's very effective. One of the big mistakes I see is people writing way too much. You want to keep it short and concise with just enough information to catch someone's attention. Then you'll come in here, you'll select your media list, you'll put in your title. So let's just grab a title right here, the one we talked about. I'll just grab this template, throw it right in here, send preview. All right, so they will send a preview, it'll go to my inbox. You always wanna make sure that all of the variables and things like that work correctly, because they do allow for variables in here, customization, like first name. Once you're ready to go, you hit send. This typically will send at that exact time, or you can send later, and that's when you schedule it and it'll go out. One of the strategies is you wanna make sure that if you're sending now or you're scheduling, you're available for quick responses. So there are specific times where journalists are more likely to see publications, so sending on a weekend is not a good idea. Sending on a Friday after 3 o'clock is a terrible idea unless it is super relevant to something that's in the news cycle and they need that information. Most times we're pitching Tuesday through Thursday, kind of midday where people are most likely to be at their desks. Usually like 10 a.m. is a great time. And we've experimented with different things and we're always adjusting it as we see open rates changing. But that's a big piece of it. But the next piece is you have to be able to respond right away, because a lot of these news cycles are super short. Some of them are gonna be months out, but some of them are gonna be hours. So if it's a relevant story, let's just say you're covering Trump's running for president currently, you're covering Trump just got indicted for this, you have a lawyer who can quote on that, situation, and he's gonna give his explanation because he's an expert in that space. That's a timely pitch that's gonna need to go out, as soon as the news cycle hits. So that's that trend piece of what's going on. The relationship piece is, if you don't already have it, it's actually building that relationship. So if you pitch, you need to be able to respond within, if they email you back, hey, I'm interested, can this client be on a call in 10 minutes? We're gonna cover it on air, which is a real case study for us. Then you're gonna be able to, you're gonna need to see that right away. So you're gonna have to be available to see it. And for them to get that national news, those TV placements, those Fox Business placements, they're gonna have to be ready to go. So make sure that your whole team's available and you can get things done properly. But if you guys have any questions or like to see content like this, please make sure to subscribe. And if you want a free article, go ahead and hit that lead magnet down below and we'll get you a free article on USA Wire. Thank you.